Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Patient Wallet channel. In today's video, I am going to talk about the ChatGPT versus Google debate that has been ongoing for some time. The mainstream story is that ChatGPT is disrupting Google search and that dominance, or worse, a lot of people are referring to Google as a dead business. What I plan to do is go over Google's earnings to find out what the data is saying and then compare ChatGPT with Google as much as possible. Keep in mind, OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, is a private company, and as a result, you cannot find as much information online. If you are new here, my name is Tasos and I am a CFA charter holder. On this channel, I share my personal finance and investing journey, and my goal is to help one person at a time with their financial goals. Before we start, keep in mind that I'm invested in Google, and at the moment, Google is my largest position in my portfolio, sitting at around 65%. I will try and remain objective, but share my thoughts throughout the video. Okay, let's jump straight into the video and with Google's earnings release. These are the latest earnings released from Google for Q2 2025. Starting with their fundamentals, revenues were up 14% year on year, operating income was up 14% year on year, and margins remained stable at around 32%. Net income was up 19%, and diluted EPS was also up 22%, suggesting some stock share buybacks from Google. Moving into Google Services, Revenues and Operating Income section, we have Google Search and Other section here, YouTube Ads, Google Network, and Subscriptions, Platforms, and Devices. As we can see, Google Search and Other, the business that is supposed to be dying, grew by 12% year on year. YouTube Ads increased by 13%, Google Network declined 1%, and Subscriptions, Platforms, and Devices increased by 20% year on year. Looking at operating income, it was up 11% year on year, with operating margins being stable at 40.1%. Moving to Google Cloud, revenue was up 32% and reached $13.6 billion for Q2 2025. Operating income increased by 141% year on year from $1.2 billion to $2.8 billion, and operating margins increased from 11.3% to 20.7%. Keep in mind that AWS and Azure margins are around 30 to 40%, so margins have still a way to grow, and cloud backlog increased by 38% to $106 billion. Looking at CapEx, it increased by 70% year on year, stands at $22.5 billion for the last quarter, and management increased their guidance for 2025 to $85 billion. As with all companies, I like to check a few things from their financial statements. Google has a very strong balance sheet, sitting at a net cash position of $72 billion. We can see that Google is doing share buybacks as the year-to-date diluted number of shares is going down. Looking at their free cash flow excluding stock-based compensation, we had declines for the quarter and year-to-date periods. It went from $7.6 billion to a negative $0.7 billion quarter on quarter, including an increase of CapEx of $9 billion. And year-to-date, it went from $19.2 billion to $12.7 billion, including $14 billion more CapEx. And lastly, looking at their earnings call, I'll highlight a couple of things that I think are important for the discussion later. AI overviews now have over 2 billion monthly users. Cloud has had a great quarter, as we have seen from the numbers, as annual revenue run rate is now more than 50 billion. In May, Google was processing 480 trillion monthly tokens, whereas now they have doubled that number and are processing over 980 trillion monthly tokens. Gemini app now has more than 450 million monthly active users, with daily requests growing over 50% from Q1. Management highlighted that AI overviews are popular as they have increased queries by 10%. AI mode has 100 million monthly active users in the US and India. And for cloud, the number of deals over $250 million doubled year on year. And for the first half of 2025, Google managed to sign the same number of deals over $1 billion that they did for the full year of 2024. YouTube has led US streaming watch time for over 2 years and now average over 200 billion daily views on YouTube Shorts. Waymo continues to scale and expand. YouTube has been number one in streaming watch time in the US for more than 2 years. And lastly, management mentioned that paid clicks were up 4% year on year. So what were the key points for Google Search and AI? As we have seen on Google Search, data shows the revenue was up 12% year on year, so it's not dead. AI overviews increase queries by 10%. I think people, because they have AI, they ask different type of questions. Tokenization more than doubled from May to August, from 480 trillion to 980 trillion per month. Paid clicks were up 4% year on year. AI mode has over 100 million users primarily in US and India. And Gemini app has more than 450 million monthly active users, which is up 50% since Q1 2025. All of this data that came from Google earnings suggests to me at this point in time, Google search is not dead, but instead it's growing healthily at 12% year on year, and there are a bunch of AI perks and additions that drive growth to their products. Moving on to data that I could find regarding ChatGPT versus Google. It's a bit difficult to compare as the way they present information is not like for like. On users, ChatGPT has 800 million weekly active users and 123 million daily active users, whereas Gemini has 400 million monthly active users, AI overviews 2 billion monthly active users, and AI mode is 100 million monthly active users. They are not comparable, but this is the best data I could find here. On visits and tokens, there is data that suggests 4.5 billion site visits for OpenAI only for the month of March 2025. And for Google, management mentioned that they now process more than 980 trillion monthly tokens. Keep in mind that visits are not tokens. On the chatbot market share, ChatGPT is undisputed leader as they are first with 60.5% market share, and Google is third with 13.5% market share. On revenue and profits, ChatGPT is expected to have $11 billion in revenue for 2025 and is unprofitable at the moment, whereas Google generated 96.4 billion revenue in Q2 2025 and profit of 28.2 billion for the same quarter. This highlights the size difference between the two and at the same time highlights that OpenAI is not profitable, whereas Google is very profitable. This is the best data that I could find out there, and the highlights are ChatGPT, because of the first move advantage, has a higher user base, has a higher chatbot market share, and is also unprofitable at this point in time, whereas Google is now rolling more features, they are growing fast, and they are already profitable. Okay, you might ask, all of this is known, so what? Well, I think on where we go directionally, there are three scenarios. 1. OpenAI figures out this ad and search dilemma first. If that happens, Google has the talent and profitability to copy the approach and compete aggressively. I think what ends up being the most important factor to attract users is integration, which Google already has, and cost. Google can decide to compete aggressively if needed and has the profitability and talent to do so. 2. Google figures this out. My opinion is that they have already done that. They are coming out with leading models and features like AI overviews and AI mode, and in my opinion, give users everything they need. Let's look at an example. Go to a browser, Google anything, and then hit AI mode. Your conversational tab opens up, and next to it you have links already. Otherwise, type the same thing, hit enter, and AI overviews open up. If you click show more, then the AI mode also appears, whilst the links are also integrated. I'm not convinced that someone will say, no, I want to pay X amount per month to have ChatGPT, when this is already integrated on your browser. So my opinion, Google has already figured this out. Last scenario is where Google search and ad business is disrupted fully. I don't own Google only for search. YouTube is the leader in streaming and has a lot of room to grow. Waymo is the leader in robotaxi and is just getting started. And lastly, Google Cloud will be much bigger as margins and revenues expand. These businesses should account for most of the current market cap of Google in the next 5 years or so. So I feel pretty comfortable even at the worst case scenario where Google is fully disrupted. So overall, I believe both companies are doing great. The story of ChatGPT killing Google's business is overblown. If ChatGPT was public and was trading at a reasonable valuation, I would be a buyer, but it's not. Meanwhile, Google is and is trading at a great valuation. I am a buyer of Google at these levels as S&P 500 is trading at a PE of 29 to 30x, whilst Google, a business with no debt, great businesses and faster growth, is trading at a PE rate of 21 to 22 times. That's it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel to help me grow and see you in the next one.